to come in and look at specific units and manage it, concession it that way. Which of them are you most comfortable with?
Privatization is a big thing. And for a resource that is as critical as iron ore, as steel, I think that you need to be a bit careful. The same I would think about a resource that is as critical for Nigeria's economy as hydrocarbons, that you might want to think of joint ventures.
Yeah.
And when you think about, I'm yet to be fully convinced about concessions.
Of any form?
Of a lot of things.
Okay.
Because then you may privatize to the point where it is out of the reach of regular people. Once it is out of the reach of regular Nigerians and they cannot build a market on it, they cannot build an economy on it, then it is out of the reach of Nigeria. So the question is, how do we want to roll this? Do we want a joint venture? Do we want a fully... I'm also not fully in support of a full government run, because I've seen how we've run a few things. I'm also careful, by the way, of the Chinese and their takeover of our natural resource. If you say a joint venture, I might think about it. A full concession, I'm not so sure. And the way we've handled the concession, particularly on this deal, might suggest that we need to go back to the drawing board.
But it doesn't seem like the government is interested in running this show on their own.
No, they probably think they can't. And if they think they can't, I think that their reasons... I think that both Iwu says he can and Iwu says he can't.
Correct.
All right. Yes.
What about the National Assembly? Do you think that their wading into this matter is actually beneficial? Is it actually helpful to the cause of getting this moribund steel company back to life? Do you think they're wading into it? Is it doing more harm than good, or more good than harm?
I think it's opening up the public discussion. Definitely. I mean, a few months ago, a year ago, it was really just the ministry that was speaking about it. But that conversation at the National Assembly is made a lot of people pause and say, wait, let's talk about this thing. I think that level of conversation is good. However, that they should totally take over the conversation, I don't think that would be healthy for us or the ministry.
Well, the recent one was the minister was even invited. Somehow he didn't show up, and then they declared
the vote of no confidence. Yes, I thought that was very...
it was funny. Vote of no confidence and capable of delivering on the job.
I thought it was hilarious.
Why?
You invite them. They tell you, on this date we've got some foreign engagements. Could you, knowing that they're very crucial to this conversation, reschedule? Or are you insisting that they just have to go by the gods that be? I think that every person in Nigeria is important. Their time and how they allocate that time in and the priorities they place to that time must be respected. And that every arm of government must respect one another. And that is the way we will show dignity to our citizens. So when the legislative arm of government is not according them that respect, or that they do not accord respect to the legislative arm of government, and if they do not begin to show some form of mutual desire to move conversations forward and just show us the schism between them, we are not going to take either side seriously. We won't take the vote of no confidence because they didn't attend one meeting. That's
overboard.
A drama.
What do you say to the people already spewing conspiracy theory that certain individuals are hell-bent on ensuring that this project does not ever get 100% completion, enough for production and activities to run there, because they have interest? People are waiting for the point where we say, okay, you know what, this thing is becoming a carcass. Let's sell it off to individuals who are interested in buying it. We've seen it play out in other sectors before. So, how is it to say it will happen in this one?
In fact, they even support that. I remember seeing something on the news with this Natasha Akpoti, who wanted to name names and to people signatories to
even down to the
Yeah.
government of the state,
Yes.
where you have all
the
of
state
these
governor
companies,
and
But-
and his stake in the company.
But apparently she was warned, I think, not to name names, so she just skipped over that and jumped into something else. But just to complete what she said, what do you say to the conspiracy theorists?
I think that we do not manage communication well in Nigeria.
Mm.
We have a conspiracy theory for everything. So there may be elements of truth in it. But then it's up to us to also decide to unravel the truth and say, you know what, let's check out that smoke. Is it a screen or is it the real thing? Is there a real fire there, or did you just, is it a gimmick?
Yeah.
We're not doing that.
Mm.
We're not investigating this properly. How many journalists are out there on the beat actually properly investigating? And don't be fast to blame the journalists. How much resources do they have to properly investigate this?
Mm. Mm. But I was still going to say that Natasha seems to be favoring the
Russia.
the Russians. Yes, and I think a lot of a narrative is skewed towards
Bring the Russians back.
Bring the Russians back. Bring the Russians
But they
back.
built it to 98% completion. They know all of the
She makes sense.
cases.
She makes sense.
She makes sense, but
She
I'm
does.
thinking, do we necessarily have to have the Russians back?
I don't know. But it's this, that everybody has an opinion.
Mm.
And that's Natasha's opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Now, is that opinion valid? That's up to the public to decide. The question is, have you decided?
Mm.
Now, I'm not going to share my opinion about what Natasha had to say about it. I thought she made a brilliant presentation.
Mm.
Yes, the Russians did do a good job in building up to that level. Do you want to go into a joint venture with them? Okay, now you begin to know my opinion. Do you want to go into a joint venture with them, seeing that they built this thing?
Mm-hmm.
But then if they built it, how are we also building local capacity at some point in our future, in another 20 years, 30 years, to take over from them?
Yeah.
There's a new breed of colonialism that's going on in our country that we're not paying attention to. The Chinese are doing it with our rail right now. The Dutch have done it for decades with our oil. How much longer do we want to entertain this? Sorry, I went that way.
Important question there.
It's a
Really, very valid one.
very-
Because it's one thing to quickly just outsource some of these things and then we hands up, because it does have capacity to generate tons of jobs.
Oh, tons.
Yeah.
You know that South Korea had started their steel project round about just about when we started. And every year, they're raking in $60 billion every year from steel. Yeah, you can close your mouth now.
And then we have us just lying
Just
there,
like Falo.
decaying and wasting
Not
away.
just lying and decaying. And then, we have a national gripe, which is the problem with Nigeria. So when it's more like we keep certain problems in the problem zone so that we can always have them to complain about when it's time to complain about Nigeria. Isn't that what we did with Ajaokuta? Yes, even Ajaokuta. We really don't seem to have the political will to solve problems. But you can't solve problems if you cannot share a vision.
Yeah.
If you cannot share a vision in a convincing way, how do you help the man on the street? How do you help the regular Nigerians to see that this will likely alter your life for good? Because then perhaps we might be able to afford a better healthcare and education.
Yeah.
See, all the money from Ajaokuta, this is what we'll devote it to. Healthcare and education. Then you begin to see the quality of the education will be better. This will directly affect me. Then I have a stake in making it work. But then we're not giving Nigerians a stake in wanting to be Nigerians or seeing a Nigeria that works. So corruption and selfish interests continues.
I love the way you were specific about where you should go into. I mean,
That's again my no. But then those are also my personal bias. I feel that a country. No, I've always had them. A country that cannot provide healthcare,
so that you can measure.
Yes, you can
really
measure. If you give it to specifics, give people specifics, and make those specifics transparent. Let people see. We share the problem with Nigeria, but we've never shared the Nigeria of my dreams. When do we begin to share vision
Visions
with
instead
our
of
own
problems.
people?
Of complaints.
Once you share vision with the people, they catch the fire, they will
Run with
build you that country. They will shed their blood for that country, but you don't make them feel Nigerian. Why should they?
All right, we're talking about the Ajaokuta Steel Company, the challenges, prospects, and opportunities with our guest Abiodun Baiyewo, who is the country director of global rights on Buharimeter this evening. You can join the conversation, you know that, right? You can tweet at Nigeria Info ABJ. You can send via WhatsApp to 0809 993037. We have to join Bevan now for the news at 7, and I'll be back to talk some more. So please stick around. All right, we continue our conversation here, talking about Ajaokuta Steel Mill and why the company is just lying there comatose, and the government seem like they are big and interested in concession in privatizing it. Others are saying maybe we should just pause for a moment and reevaluate properly before we do that. We've lost so much money from all the back and forth, the legal tussle, to the people who's been concession to compensation. Am I right on this one?
Yeah.
Apparently, we've lost so much money, and to think that we haven't made quite as much as we should have from it. We haven't made anything. It really must be frustrated for the stakeholders and those who have been following up with keen interest. But let's paint a picture. Help us understand the prospects in Ajaokuta. Let Nigerians just for 1 minute just appreciate what we're capable of generating through that company that's just been lying there fallow for a while.
First of all, I think that if you do a comparison with a country that started at the same level 30 years ago, that now makes $60 billion annually from steel, should begin to tell you the potential for Nigeria, and that we have a bigger deposit here in Nigeria that we are not harnessing at all. $60 billion in 1 year. Stay with me. $60 billion in 1 year. If we were to then shore $10 billion of the $60 billion into infrastructure for power, if we were then to send in $30 billion into education and $20 billion into health, 1 year. The next year, we do exactly that. The following year, we even take out a proportion because it will grow.
Oh, yeah.
Ajaokuta was meant to roll out 1.5 billion in amount of liquid steel, going on till we get to 5.6 million by the third phase. So that would grow. So you're talking 80 billion, and maybe we decide, let's not touch the extra 20 billion. Let's add that to our foreign reserve. Just imagine if just that single project is not killed by corruption and ineptitude, that we're already out of the pit that we have found ourselves. That if we get education right, we have technical people, we have people who can actually run this country, civil service that works, and that we can feed our civil service from a very educated lot. That our universities and technical schools are able to do research and are able to develop technology that is suited to our peculiar context. Imagine then the markets that we will build. Imagine then what we will begin to export. That we will not only begin to export steel, but ideas and people with ideas. That you can actually build a Nigeria that works by just making that small segment. And that's not the only thing that Nigeria has got. Just that one. Make that one work. So for me, it's very important that Nigerians see it. If we see it, we can hold on to it. We can demand accountability for it. Democracy is not just your PVC. Democracy is what we do every day with governance. Once we fail and then wait for the ballot, we, the people, the citizen, the office of the citizen, has then failed.
Well, just think about the number of jobs that can be created through that medium, direct and indirect.
10,000 technical jobs, 500,000 non-technical indirect jobs. Just Ajaokuta.
Without the other.
No. I'm not talking about I'm talking within Ajaokuta itself. 10,000 technical jobs, 500,000 non-technical jobs. Just the jobs. Just the number of Nigerians
that would be employed.
That would be able to cater for their family. That would stay out of conflicts. That would be able to contribute. That would be able to pay taxes, which we then again can shore into other things. 10,000 technical jobs, 500,000 people, non-technical jobs.
And then we're talking so much about infrastructure, rails, expanding, when we have
we're just
the raw materials.
We've got the raw materials. We say, Itakpe, at least, we produce the little from Itakpe. But what? We're still importing so much. We're importing so much. It is painful. If you ever have a dream for this country, what we do is it breaks your heart every day. Every day.
Wow. So here we are, the crossroad again.
Yes.
Government on one side, legislature, the executive saying this is the way to go. The legislative arm of government is thinking maybe just halt it. People are saying just get started already.
Move on.
Because we might stay in this limbo for God knows how long if we don't help to jumpstart or fast track it.
But how can we?
That's where we're heading to. What can we do? What can the average Nigerian do at this point?
Catch
what
the
can civil
vision
society organization do?
Make people see what we can do.
Can we level pressure on what?
Pressure in what direction?
What direction?
People will ask you,
where do we push? What
pressure for transparency. Let's see everything you're doing on this. The more people that are pressuring for transparency, the more we will see, the more the sector will be forced to be seen. Do you remember when we went out in the streets with the Enough campaign, Enough is Enough campaign, and then the rot it showed with NNPC?
Yeah.
What says that we can't do that? Let's do. But then if people don't see, if people don't see how Ajaokuta will affect their own lives, don't blame them if they don't join you. If they just say, you know what, I'll sit at my desk. Don't blame them. Who's sharing the vision?
Okay. All right.
I drove past there. I went by road to Kwaibom, I think, the bus we took, and then you could just see buildings.
Stare, like follow.
Rotting away.
And you see the pipes.
And in my head, I was saying, we're losing money. It's just sitting there, and I know that we're already losing money.
We've got projects in Kogi. Yeah, we've got projects in Kogi. So you can imagine that when we drive past there, I'm always like this. Like, are we for real? Are we sane?
Because it doesn't look like any sane country will allow a gold mine like that. And we're just sitting on it. And some individuals, in quote, are looking for ways to harness all of that money for themselves. Why?
That's why questions. I bet a lot of people keep asking it. Like someone is asking. So, when do we start making money from Ajaokuta? So what someone sent a message, yeah? When do we start making money from Ajaokuta? He doesn't understand what we're discussing now. He just wants to know when the money will start raking in the dough.
When you start insisting, we do. When you start insisting,
because Nigerians, we have this pie, this democracy. You find the old NSAS campaign, the one you mentioned, Enough is Enough campaign. Yeah. We can actually start a campaign with this and get the government to do something. Leverage pressure that way.
But then nobody wants to take responsibility. Everybody wants someone else to take the responsibility for it. You say, why doesn't civil society do this? Why doesn't this person do this? Why don't these people do that? I've been using the example of the Never Again movement in the United States. But then it was just a bunch of children that got up and say, never again. And we will make a movement of this. Over 1 million people filled the streets of DC on Saturday to say never again. And all the speakers were all children. Children. Why won't that country be great? Meanwhile, you're telling me, so global rights, what are you doing about to make sure that the government is doing the CDD? What have you done to make sure that the Ajaokuta is resolved?
You to do something.
What are you doing?
All right.
Like you said, it's
All right.
division.
It's all of our responsibility.
They had it up to here with the school shooting and the issue of gun control, how it's been politicized, and they had to go out on the street to make
over a
demands
million
very vocal.
people.
So until we have that collective vision and goal for Nigeria, it'll be difficult to.
It's going to be really difficult, but we don't have a.
Indeed. Well, let's open up the conversation, shall we?
Yes, we should.
All right then. 094600951 or 0809597486 0803-123-0293 or 080-008 Nigeria Info, or you can tweet at Nigeria Info ABJ or send via WhatsApp to 080-999-30137. Hello.
Hi, Tim. Good evening.
Good evening.
Okay, so I am just trying to say something, sir. Okay, I'm just hoping that even if there is going to be sold out or concession out, please, we should hope that it should be given to Nigeria, because that very sector alone, to me, is more than an oil company. Because imagine that all the machines that needed to be produced is totally dependent on that Ajaokuta Steel. All the industrialization, all the cars, all the different engines that is required, apart from the real iron that is used maybe in making doors, iron rod, and so many other things. So that is so important that if you should sell it to any outside company, it's like we are cutting away our wealth, to outside company. So I'm just thinking that we should look for very wealthy Nigerians, to take over, and then maybe that person should not look for technocrats, all those Russians that are very qualified in that aspect. I'm sure it can be held in that way. If not, if a foreign company should take it, to me, it's like no matter how all the profit will be taken away from Nigeria. Because I'm sure in the next few years, maybe after some time, we'll realize that is a very, very big wealth. So, in fact, I'm even looking at it that what the National Assembly is saying, that they should not sell it out. Maybe they are just thinking that let the executive don't just give it out to other. So I'm just looking at along that line, so that at least let the wealth be
retained in the
Nigeria
country.
here.
All right. Do we have the capacity to solely run it? Do we have the expertise also, is another question a lot of people are asking. Like someone sent a message here now, Obinna, who is saying that, I think we should, he seems to think it shouldn't be privatized, that the government should handle it on their own. Privatizing it would lose so much money from it. All of this concessioning, the chunk of it would go to the investors coming in. And then someone else is saying that how are we sure that Nigerians are not the ones who are ensuring that they must privatize it so that they can buy it and hold us to ransom? I have my reservation also, but so we get to see from opinions here that people are even torn and confused on what direction to take here. Also, I believe so much that we're just sitting on a gold mine. It's obvious in terms of the capacity to generate jobs, and one of the largest iron ore in Africa. It's a shame that government after government have paid very little attention to it, and all of the government after government have benefited from our loss through Ajaokuta Steel Complex. It's a shame. I doubt this administration can do much though. But let's keep putting pressure until we see it come to light. Whatever route they intend to take from this point on, I welcome it as long as we see Ajaokuta completed, functional, and producing. All right, let's hear from someone else by telephone also. Hello?
Yeah, good evening, Kimberly.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I'm interested in what you are discussing right now. My name is Jeff.
Jeff, talk to
from
us.
Abuja. Yeah, it is good to discuss infrastructure. It is good to discuss Ajaokuta and IT industry. It is good to discuss politics in Nigeria. there's just one thing we are not discussing. We are not paying attention to, both at government level, at media level, for those of you who are in the media industry. And I think that is human capital development. And there's no way you can get a country running. There's no way you can get an economy running without a sound development. And you cannot talk about sound, human capital development program without sound education. That we have not got paying attention to. And that, even those of you in the media, you are not paying attention. And that, even myself that is talking to you, I don't think we are giving it the desired attention. We don't need still a great nation. We need politics to be a great nation. We don't need minerals to be a great nation. It's right, human beings to be great nation. And when we talk about human development, some of them will say health, another one will say education put together, all this, human development capital and all related areas. But however, if you look at human beings, what I will tell you, we all know, which is the intellectual capacity of man. Apart from the character is also part of human development. And if you look at the character angle of human development in Nigeria, it's more or less. I'm sorry to say that. I don't think about that. Because these are the issues we need to look at. For instance, I listen to our budget every year, year in, year out. I listen to our finance minister, for instance, year in, year out, government after government. And when they talk finance. And you don't hear them linking finance to human capital development or education. I don't see the link. There's no way we can move forward without sound education and sound human capital development. So, thank God one big man from US came to Nigeria and mentioned the same thing. Right. That is where our problem is. Corruption is not even our problem. Corruption is a product of bad human capital development and bad education. That's basically it.
Thank you very much. Taking the conversation a notch further, looking at that. And someone is saying, see, we can huff and puff as much as we want. If we don't restructure this country, we'll move at a very slow pace and even be stuck in the mud at some point in time. Restructure, and you see regions and states falling over themselves to develop everything that they have just to be competitive. All right, that's from Tonya. Hello. Okay. We still have a few more minutes to take your calls. If you have any thought to share with us, feel free to call us on 094600-951 or any of our other numbers like 0809-5974-869. Some thoughts have come in. Restructure, Nigeria, channel, education and stuff like that. How does this all add up to what
I think the man that spoke about human capital development has spoken a perspective that I very strongly believe in. I thought that was excellent. Whether it's education or healthcare, if you make your people feel secure and you build a people who are able to build a country, you will have a country. But we've not done that. Our educational system is in shambles. Our healthcare is in shambles. We do not have social security. No plans for the future for anyone, whether young or old, in private or public sector. How then would corruption thrive?
Indeed. Well, let's hear from this caller who's been waiting. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
Go ahead, sir.
This Ajaokuta issue has been on over years. Now, sorry, I'm Abdulhamid Yusuf.
Go ahead.
The option of saying privatize, do concession has been tried. Has been tried up to 3 times, and it has never worked. When these people come, the other begin to vandalize the place until the government was able to get through all the legal tussle to get it back. Why do we want to go back to the road to concession? Let the government complete what is remaining. We have other issues that have to do with infrastructure. equipment and machineries, raw materials needed to get Ajaokuta running require rail lines. They talk of stretching the worry port or lowering pipeline to 6 meters below the level it is now, so that certain batch can come in, with products. These are things that should no government, no individual will come and do this for any government or any nation. If they tell you they will do it, they are just lying. So let's go ahead. Whatever it takes, let's complete it. Provide these infrastructures. And if you now want to call in technical experts so that it can be under PPP, it can be managed together. Management aspect of a product that is already complete. That is what I stand for. It has worked with LNG in a way because a lot of multinationals came in, but Nigeria had her own percentage. And through that ownership, they are able to control and monitor what is happening there. That's what should be done with Ajaokuta. We should be ashamed of ourselves after spending so much money, and we go back and start thinking of how to give it out. Anybody that comes and is talking of concession, they are looking at the percentage they'll get from that concession, and they go away.
Indeed.
That is my take.
Thank you very much. Now he's saying we have tried our hands at concessioning. The federal government, as a matter of fact, has terminated on 3 occasions concession contract.
Yes.
Why do we want to go back to it? And then if you question that, you also ask, do we really have the capacity to complete and run Ajaokuta on our own?
My question, don't we have the capacity to complete and run Ajaokuta on our own? Why do we? That is a question. I'm throwing a question back at your question. Do we have the capacity? Why do we keep doubting ourselves? Every country I have been to,
all these years, you would think we would swing into action and get started.
It's also the way we look down on ourselves, and also the way that corruption tells us to look down on ourselves. Corruption says you're no good anyway, but then people. For every country I have been to, I have seen Nigerians build those countries. Every country. The Nigerians who are scientists, who are technical people, who are technocrats, who are building other people's country. Obasanjo at some points tried to bring back as much brain that was drained from this country. Could we do that? Can we develop enough faith in ourselves to run things? But then the other part is that you must get public service right to be able to do that. Are you putting the right people in the right places? Are you giving them enough incentive to serve the nation and not their own selfish interests? You've got that as well.
Interesting. We can go on and on with this conversation, and it gets even more interesting. I love the fact that Nigerians are giving it some thought and looking at it from
different
it's not binary,
perspectives.
it's not 0 or 1. Telling you that there are grey areas we need to wade into and thoroughly interrogate before we start to say, is it that concession or government? Weighing the options and see which one will be most beneficial to us. I think that's something from this conversation, even from the callers so far, that it's not as simple as just hand to these people.
Grey has got so many shades.
50 shades and more. All right, our time is up. Just to wrap up our conversation, what do you want to say in conclusion?
So we need to all put our eyes on Ajaokuta. Not just Ajaokuta. There's Delta Steel. We're not having that conversation at all. And Delta Steel at a point was actually producing. So what's happened with that? Let's start all of these public conversations again. Then the other problem we have as Nigerians is we start a conversation and then we find the next exciting thing and we go into that conversation. No staying power. Focus. Stay on this conversation. Keep this conversation going. Keep asking the same questions. Keep going the same way till we move forward. We can't keep dancing on so many issues. Let's choose the issues that are critical to us and let's focus on them. Let's stay on the questions.
Indeed. Well, thank you so much, Abiodun Baiyewo Tero.
It's been nice being here.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. I appreciate your insight.
Thank you.
And thanks to CDD, Razak.
Yeah, well, it's been fun, always interesting, always insightful. We'll be here again.
Oh yeah, we'll be here. Monday's a public holiday. Will you be here?
We'll be here again.
Half the time. But we'll see about it.
Right.
Thank you so much for being a part of the show, Abuja. But please don't touch your dial. We'll take up plenty of stuff to talk about. So please stay with 95.1. Very
What do you think about that?
I'll be traveling. I'll be around, but what will be here?
I don't know if we'll be here. Nobody's told me
If you can't,
anything.
then actually you call the master
Market,
that spend for that week. They can do it.
I'll do that.
If it doesn't do it before that day, it's public holiday.
I'll do
it
that.
will
I'll tell
count.
them.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Appreciate you much.